Talking today with Mr. Isabelino Vazquez, currently of Killeen, Texas. The interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. Now, Mr. Vasquez, can you begin at the beginning? Tell us where and when you were born.
I was born in a small town called Humacao, Puerto Rico.
All right. And did you grow up in Puerto Rico?
I stayed in Puerto Rico until I was 19 years old.
Okay. And did you complete high school there?
I completed high school and I went to the University of Puerto Rico, and then I was drafted into the army.
All right. Now, were you drafted while you were a university student?
Yes, I was drafted while I was in school.
All right. So there's no student deferment for you?
No, like you have what they call a classification 4F. That's when you have some kind of medical or mental disability.
Right, but being in college, at least for you, didn't keep them from doing it. Because at other times, being in college might get you a deferment.
Right, but not in 1950.
Not in 1950. All right. Now, what was your own reaction to being drafted?
I was not really concerned about it because since I was a young kid, I was aware of what happened during the Second World War, and I was kind of interested, especially on the Ranger units during the Second World War.
All right. So you're willing to kind of go and see what happens.
Right. I was willing. We had 3 people in my family, or 3 of us went together to Korea.
All right. Now, where did they send you for basic training?
I took basic training in Puerto Rico in a camp by the name of Tortuguero. It was a short basic training, about 6 weeks long. That's all we took.
Okay. And this was pretty much just for people from Puerto Rico rather than elsewhere?
Yeah, this is all the Puerto Rican to kind of fill in the 65th Infantry Regiment. However, when I was assigned, I went to the 15th Infantry, which is a different unit.
All right. Now, I guess I was going to ask actually before we got too far ahead of this, what did your family do for a living when you were growing up?
My mother was a graduate nurse. My father was the clerk for the federal court in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Okay, so your family has some education and probably relatively well off for people in Puerto Rico.
We have 1, 2, 3. We have 4 teachers in my family.
All right. So you probably would do pretty well in the Army's aptitude tests and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we had no problem with it.
All right. So you do your own training. Now, what did your basic training consist of? What did they make you do?
I'll be honest with you, it wasn't much of anything. We have physical education, exercises like that, and obstacle courses. But mostly it was fighting the different type of weapons in the range. Starting with the M1 rifle to get you familiar with it. What they call the BAR, Browning Automatic Rifle, light machine guns, A6 and A4s, and a little bit on the 81 millimeter mortar.
Okay. Did they have a bazooka to try, or was
those times they have what they call a 2.35 bazooka. We didn't have much of that. We saw it, but that was about the end.
Yeah, well, it didn't work too well on the Soviet-built tanks anyway.
No,
so.
It wasn't worth 5 cents, to be honest with you.
All right. Okay, so you have your 6 weeks of basic training. Now, do you get any advanced training after that, or do they just chip you out?
No, we don't have no advanced training. We went from Puerto Rico, we sailed to Japan. In Japan, we have 7 days of training with the members of the 187 Airborne Regiment. They were training the people before going to Korea.
Okay. Now, how did they get you from, what kind of boat were you on when you went out to Japan?
We used a Navy ship. I forgot the name, was Lieutenant Murphy or something, some kind of ship. It carry about 4,000 troops.
Okay, so it's a big troop transport.
Yeah, we have some of the 65th replacement. I was one. We have the Colombian battalion, and And I think we have another Latin American country that same one or two company. I don't remember whether it was Colombia or Ecuador. I don't know.
Okay. And what do you remember about that trip?
The trip, I was sick the first 3 or 4 days that I was in that boat. I had never been in a boat before.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long way. It was about 40 days going up and down. And I get that, I would say probably 50% of the people in that boat were sick initially.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually we got accustomed to it.
Okay. Was the weather good for most of the trip? Or?
No, it wasn't bad. It was that we were not accustomed to as a matter of fact, seldom we went out of Puerto Rico to begin with.
Mm-hmm. All right. It takes you 40 days to get across to Japan.
Right.
What did you get to see anything of Japan, or were you just on an army base?
No, we were strictly combat type training in Japan.
All right. Now, at this point, you were expecting to join the 65th Regiment. Was that?
Right. Yeah, we all were expecting.
Okay. All right. Now, then, when you go from Japan to Korea, where do you land in Korea?
We landed in Busan.
Okay. And what did they do with you after you landed in Busan?
We took a train. That's why they call it train. It doesn't look like, but it was a train towards Seoul. That's where the tail infantry was at that time.
Mm-hmm. And then at what point did you find out what unit you were going to?
The first, we took us about 2 days to get to Seoul because the enemy have infiltrated all the way to the south. So sometimes we had to stop the train and do a little bit of fighting and then get back on the train. Eventually we got to the replacement company of the Infantry Division.
Okay.
About 2 days.
All right. And at that point, you're assigned then to what unit?
At that point, I was assigned as a messenger with G Company. And the reason for that was because I spoke a little bit of English. And so the company commander decided I stayed with the headquarters for a couple, 2 or 3 weeks.
All right. Now, but you're assigned to a unit, is that just mostly English-speaking Americans?
All English-speaking Americans.
All right.
But we have, in that unit, during that time, I don't know if you know the history, but the United States Army was segregated up to 1950. And that's when they started to desegregate the units. So when I went to the 5th Infantry, we have also people native from Hawaii. We have some Japanese
Mm-hmm.
who were also there, and we have some people from Germany. So it was our company was kind of a mixed organization.
Mm-hmm.
You have Italians, Germans, Polacks, Hawaiian, Filipinos, the whole world.
All right. Now, were there any black soldiers in there yet?
No, we didn't have no blacks.
Okay. All right.
But remember, we have 1 battalion of blacks attached to the 3rd Infantry Division.
Mm-hmm. Because the original order to desegregate was 1947, but it took a period of years, and there were still all black units in Korea.
It took a lot of units.
Yeah. All right. Now, you got there. Now, what was your company doing at the time that you joined it? Were they in a rear area or in the front line? Or?
They were in the front line. They were in a defensive position in the front line.
All right. Now, as you got your bearings a little bit, what did the country around you look like? What impression did you have of Korea?
Everything looked different in Korea. The only thing you have in Korea, based on my limited knowledge at that time, was you were either in the rice paddies, which were wet most of the time, or you were on top of the hill, mountains after mountains, and you climb one and you expect that will be the end, there will be another one, and another one. It looked like it never finished.
Mm-hmm. Now, how long was it before your company got into any serious fighting?
We were in contact all the time.
Okay. And would this be kind of raiding and patrolling or larger scale attacks?
No, most of our initial operations were defensive position against Chinese units.
And so the Chinese were coming in and attacking
Right.
you and trying
they
to push
attack
you.
and they withdraw and they attack. It was kind of a game, really.
All right. how much, I mean, what would happen? I mean, see, this happens a lot, there's a pattern to it. Would they attack at night or in the day?
Chinese attack only at night. The reason for that is to protect themselves from the aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
So they move at night, they attack at night.
All right. And was there a particular time at night when they usually attacked?
They normally attack between 12 and 1.
All right.
Which make it easy for us because we know, so we can kind of prepare, we can rest, and we can be ready for the attack.
Now, when an attack happened, did they have artillery or mortars or?
Yeah, the Chinese at that time, and I will assume they still do the same, they follow a regular pattern, which is kind of easy to understand. They attack with artillery. They have more artillery than the United States have. So they attack with a lot of artillery. And then they attack eventually in mass.
Mm-hmm.
But because we knew the pattern, so we can take protection against the artillery.
Mm-hmm. And when they attack, you can call in your own artillery at that point?
Yeah, we have what we call a final protective line, which is interlocking fire of all the machine guns that we have in the units.
Mm-hmm.
We have our own artillery and also our own mortars, 81 4.2.
Mm-hmm.
So when the fire protective line is called, all weapons fired right in front of you, 200 meters in front, and then you kind of creep the fire forward.
Okay. Now, when an attack happened, what were your duties? Were you moving back and forth as a messenger?
No. I stayed as a messenger for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then after that, the company commander assigned me to the 3rd platoon of G Company.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a rifleman at that time.
All right. Now, were you successful in holding your position for all that time? Or?
My company commander was a captain by the name of Lyon. Captain Lyon was a Second World War captain.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't believe in losing the ground. It made sense. If you lose the ground, you had to counter-attack.
Mm-hmm.
So he preferred to hold the ground than to lose the ground and then come back counter-attack. So we never lost the ground.
How long did you stay in that position?
Well, we attack by phase line. We stay that phase line. All the units on the Eighth Army attack. They are on the same line abreast. Then the Eighth Army continue moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way we move forward with. The company move forward with 3 platoon up and 1 platoon down with reserve.
Now, when you attacked, would you do that during the day, or would you try at night too?
We attack daytime.
Mm-hmm. And was there? Were you attack in kind of an open order, or spread out, or did you have fire teams, or what did you do?
Every company is kind of different. My company commander, let's say, we normally attack initially with 2 platoons moving what they call frontal type attack, where in reality those 2 platoons are not going to climb the hill. He have normally 1 platoon to go to the right, away from the center, and another platoon to go to the left. So he failed with the 2 platoon on the frontal attack, but the attack, we finished the attack coming from the side.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the Captain Lyon operated.
Okay. And what kind of defenses did the Chinese have? I mean, if you're attacking them, what do they have?
They have basically trenches, which means if you can get on one end of the trench, you can attack up the trenches.
Did the trenches have a lot of zigzags and curves?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so they're at least doing that much.
Right.
All right. Now, were these open trenches that could be bombarded? Or?
Yeah, they have open trenches, but in certain locations they have bunkers.
Okay.
Most of those locations are your machine gun weapons.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, how long did you spend in Korea?
I think Korea 14 months.
Okay. And were you with the same regiment the whole time?
No. When I complete my tour, which is 12 months, they transferred me to the 65th Infantry Regiment, which is from Puerto Rico.
Right.
And the reason for that was so the people that completed the tour, they will be living on the same transportation, the same boat, which made sense. However, when I got to the 65th, they were not moving the people out yet because they suffered a lot of casualty. So I stayed with them with 2 months, and I was a platoon leader with the 65th.
Okay. And what rank were you at that point?
I was an E7
Okay.
platoon leader. I was in G Company, the same as G Company on the previous one.
Right. Now, were they still fighting, or were they in a rear area when you joined
We
them?
were in what they call, we were on one line, and you can see the Chinese about probably 1,500 meters to the front. They were in another high ground, and that was kind of a silly game, basically. We go out normally every day. We have 1 platoon, 2 platoon. We go out to a certain high ground. We attack there, and sometimes they hold the ground. Sometimes they pull back, and we also pull back, go back to the same line, which is kind of, now I call it stupid. That time I didn't know the difference, but it was kind of stupid. You attack the same position 2 or 3 different times.
All right. Now, did you take a lot of losses when you were doing that?
In the 65th, I didn't take too many losses. In the 15th Infantry, we took a lot of losses. There was only 6 people left in my platoon.
And how many had you started with?
We started with 50. We had 6 people left.
Okay. Now, would you periodically get replacements coming in to strengthen or reinforce the unit?
We got replacement, I think about 2 times we got an input of enough people to kind of fill the platoon. But we normally have, I would say about 70% at the most.
Okay. Now, were most of your losses, did those come when you attacked, or when you trained?
All our losses came on the attacks.
Because your defensive positions were sort of strong enough that you could survive.
Yeah, too strong for them to pull out.
All right. Now, when you were in Korea, did you get much of a chance to go behind the lines anywhere, or into Seoul, or see much of anything? Okay. And did you see many Koreans, whether civilians or soldiers?
Yeah, I saw a lot of civilians. They were pulling back all the civilians toward Busan. Lines, forever, people, pulling back with nothing in the
So when you first got there, you saw a lot coming the other way?
Yeah, we were going up and they were coming down toward Busan. A lot of civilians.
But once you got up to the front lines, were there still civilians trying to come through, or had that stopped?
No, there are no civilians.
All right. Now, are there other things that kind of stand out in your memory about the time that you were in Korea? Or if you think back to when you were there, what do you think about?
The only thing that, while I was in the 15th Infantry, that probably one of the best units I've ever been with. I have a real good company commander. My platoon leader was Lieutenant West. He was a AAA ball player in the United States. And I used to be a ball player also in Class A. My platoon sergeant was American also, outstanding guy. Both my platoon leader and platoon sergeant were killed. I took over the platoon at that time. So my service with the 15th Infantry was, straight. In the 65th was different. The 65th was a little bit disorganized. They don't have the type of support that we have from the 15th Infantry at all. For example, when we attacked a hill in Korea, we went to the top of the hill. Sometimes you go to a location where you try to dig in and you have rocks and everything all over. But my company commander have an engineer squad that always came up with demolition everything, and they just use the explosives, dig in the hole, and after that you continue. We have good artillery support. When I went to the 65th, we didn't have no artillery support, none whatsoever. There was no engineer to support you on top of the hill. So when you went there, you tried to dig in, it was almost impossible to.
And was the 65th operating as an independent unit?
No, they were attached to the 10th Infantry Division.
Okay, but the division didn't provide much support.
No, you had the 15th, we get support,
Mhm.
7th Infantry, the 65th Infantry, and one brigade from Turkey.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you finish, finally get through 14 months in Korea. So they ship you back with the 65th as a group? Or,
Right.
Yeah. All right. And then you go back to Puerto Rico at that point?
Yeah, I went to Puerto Rico. I get out from the service, and then later on, I came back about, I don't know, 30, 45 days later, I joined the same unit. And then I applied for the 82nd Airborne Division. I went to the 82nd Airborne Division.
Okay. And why did you choose the 82nd Airborne Division?
When I was a kid, I wanted to be either ranger or I wanted to be a paratroop.
Mm-hmm. Now, why did you decide to go back into the Army?
Well, I was playing baseball, okay, and I weighed, at that time, I weighed about 145, 148 pounds. When I went into Korea, believe it or not, when I came out of there, I weighed about 165 pounds. Don't tell me how, but I weighed 165 pounds. So I went back to play, I went back to the University of Puerto Rico. I used to play the Firebase, but at that time I didn't have the same ability that I had before I went into Korea. So the competition was more competition. So I said, well, to hell with it. So I went back into the army.
All right. Now, you join the 82nd Airborne. Now, then did you have to do jump school? Was that the next thing?
Yeah, I went through the jump school.
And what was that like? What did they have you do?
I'll be honest with you, for me it was very difficult. And being honest about it, if I told you, in 32nd Airborne Division, you didn't have too many Spanish-speaking people.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, you didn't have almost no blacks in the 32nd Airborne
Yeah.
Division.
And so did you get treated differently because of that?
Oh yeah, they make it very difficult to you.
And how did you deal with that?
Well, I was lucky because before I started young school, I went to the NCO club one night. I think I was supposed to start school 2 days later. And I was sitting there and there was a sergeant first class, American type, that he was on what they call the President 100 Rifleman. I don't know if you're familiar with that unit. This is the 100 best sharpshooter or marksman in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was one of them.
All right.
And this guy used to be stationed in Puerto Rico before that. So he saw me sitting there and he came and talked to me and then we started talking. And later on, a Master Sergeant came and sat on the same table. And the Master Sergeant, he happened to be the NCOIC of the 32nd Airborne School.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when I started the training, and they were giving me a hard time, but he didn't know about it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And one time, I said after 2 weeks, he came down, he saw me, so we started talking. He said, how's it going? So I told him exactly how it's going. I was working more, than the other people. Normally, if this guy did 100 push-ups during daytime, I probably did 200 or 300 of those. Yeah? So evidently he went and talked to the people and said, lay off.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I didn't have no problem whatsoever.
All right. Now, once you completed the paratroop training, what did you do
I
next?
went to, after I completed the basic training, I went to the Young Master training.
Mm-hmm.
Because this Master Sergeant, he told me to go ahead and I said, yes, complete. So I went straight into the Young Master.
All right. And then what did you do there?
Well, I went to another school. I went to Aerial Delivery School, which is when you throw the big bundle from the air canal, everything.
Mm-hmm.
I completed the non-commissioned officer school there. And then after that, I was transferred to Fort Campbell to the 11th Airborne Division.
All right.
The reason I was transferred it was not of anything had to do with me or the unit, because the 11 was being formed. They needed personnel, so they took personnel from the 82nd Airborne.
So what year was that you joined them?
I joined the 11 Airborne on 1954.
Okay.
I was on the 82nd, 1953.
Okay. Now, did they stay at Fort Campbell or did they move somewhere else?
No, we went after the division was completed. We had full strength. We went to Germany.
All right.
We went to Germany in January 1956. We went to Germany.
Okay. Now, what was the setup in Germany? Kind of where were you and what kind of base did you have?
I was in Augsburg, Germany. It's a small caserne or a small camp.
Mm-hmm.
And basically our mission was to kind of support the armored units that were at that time waiting for a Soviet invasion into Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So basically we conduct tactical training, so on and so forth, and we have positions assigned behind the armored units. So we go, so often we go up there and they look to the position, man our position, and do some training, and then come back to the rear.
Mm-hmm. And what was life in Germany like for you?
Very good.
I mean, did you get a lot of chances to go off the base and go into town, that kind of thing?
Germany with 11 Airborne was probably one of my best tours.
And how long did you stay there?
I stayed there 3 years in Germany.
All right. Now, over the course of that time, were there any kind of crisis moments or times when you thought maybe something was going to happen? And there's I guess the Hungarian Revolution was 56. And
That was in 56, yeah.
so were there times when you thought you might have to, actually go and do something, or was life pretty routine?
No, well, not really. We did have a lot of training in 11 Airborne because we were the what they call the ready reaction force for Europe.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of parachute jumps in different areas. We were busy, which was good.
Okay. Now, did you do all the training in Germany, or did you go to other parts of Europe?
We went to Italy. We jumped in Italy. Later on, we had to go to Lebanon. I don't know if you remember the problem in Lebanon. We stayed busy there.
All right. Now, Lebanon's at 58. Was that?
Lebanon was started in 56. The first trip to Lebanon was in 56.
Okay. And what did you do when you got there?
On the first trip, we didn't do much in Lebanon. We were there for what they call a show of force, basically. So,
now, were you based on land or stayed on ships, or?
No, we were on land.
Okay. And then did you go back to Lebanon again?
No, I didn't go the second time. The 24th Infantry Division went into Lebanon.
Okay. All right. Did you get a chance to tour around Europe and see other places, or did you just stay with the unit?
No, I stayed with the unit, basically.
Okay. At this time, were you still single at this time, or were you married?
Yeah, single.
Okay. So you didn't have to worry about bringing the family along or anything like that?
I was a single man.
At that point. Okay. So basically at this point you've decided to make a career in the Army. Is that your expectation?
Oh yeah, because in Germany I was a sergeant for clan, but I was a platoon leader for whatever reason. I have a platoon all the way 3 years. And the reason for that, when I was in Korea, I was offered a commission which I declined. And when I went to the 65th for those 2 months, I was offered another commission. I declined.
Why were you declining the commissions at that
I
time?
didn't want to be an officer. I like to be an enlisted man. That's what I like, with
All right.
the training. When I was in the 11, and the same thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I say no. So, but I still run the platoon.
Now, at this point, had you made it up to E8 by then, or?
Yeah, I made.
Okay. All right. So you're in Germany then. You're there 3 years.
I came back to Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Okay. And then how long do you stay there?
I stayed there for a couple of years until the beginning of 1969. I joined Special Forces.
Okay, so you're in the Army all of this time, and the Vietnam conflict is building up.
Right.
What did you know about Vietnam before you joined the Special Forces?
Nothing.
Okay.
The same I didn't know about Korea.
All right, it's just not really on your radar at that point. Okay, now you joined the Special Forces, so what motivated you to do that?
Well, two things. When I came back to Fort Campbell, I joined the 187 Airborne Regiment.
Mm-hmm.
That they were also in Korea. The other one, those are the people who trained me when we first got to Korea,
Right.
the 187. So when I came back, the 187 was back in Fort Campbell. For some reason, I was assigned to the 187.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of jumps because I went through the basic training, the jump master and all these things, and aerial delivery and everything. So I took some kind of training with the, well, at that time the Army team, the Army parachute team, it was not as advanced as they were later on. That was the beginning there.
Mm-hmm.
So there was about 4 or 5 people from my company, Charlie Company, so we were there for a while. And then 2 of the guys decided to join Special Forces. One was a pilot, and another guy was an infantryman like me. So they joined, and I said, well, I follow them. And there was no specific reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we just go, and we all 3 got there.
All right. Now, what kind of training did they give you for the Special Forces?
Special Forces training is the most difficult training in the world. The first training that you take is what they call the qualification training. And the qualification course is, the first 2 weeks is mostly physical training, a lot of swimming, like 5 miles swimming,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of traveling the mountain with 90-pound rucksack and a weapon.
Now, where were they doing this training?
Well, we do training right in North Carolina. We have a special area where it's on the mountain. We do the training. We train in Florida in the jungle there.
Mm-hmm.
We have training in Delonaga, Georgia, from
yeah.
the mountains. We have a camp there. So we train all over the places.
All right. Now, how long does the training in total last?
The qualification course is about 8 to 10 weeks. Only about 30% of the people complete the qualification course.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to what they call the skills courses. You can either be a light weapons or a heavy weapons, or you can be a demolition person, or you can be a medic, which is a very, very long training, or you can be an intelligence and operation specialist.
Okay. And did you get to choose which specialization you go into?
No, you take a battery test,
Mm-hmm.
and the battery test, I don't know how they do it, but they determine whether you can be a good communication person, you can be a good demolition person, or basically what is your best capabilities.
And what did they choose for you?
Operation and intelligence.
All right. So on a practical level, what would that mean you would be going and doing in the field?
You have 2 duties. One is to gather and kind of, I would say, you do a hasty diagnosis of the information that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You send it forward to the higher unit, and then they do the final compilation of what it means, or what you want to do. And the operation portion, you are the second in command to the team leader, and you kind of have a hands on all the tactical operations, raids, stuff like that, ambushes, patrolling.
All right. Now, when you were going through all of this training, were the men who were training with you, were you all non-coms, or were there officers there too?
No, the officers trained with a different group of people, and the non-commissioned officer, and well, most everybody is a non-commissioned officer, because at that time, you had to be at least a sergeant to be in special forces.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have prior to PC or anything like that.
Okay.
But the officer trained on one side, the non-commissioned officer on another side. When the qualification call is finished, you have to have what they call a field training exercise. So what they do, they take enlisted people with officers. You have 2 officers assigned to the detachment, a commander and an XO,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when you made for the first time you made a team. And then that team go to the field for 4 or 5 weeks, and they train to see whether you can survive as a team. You know, if you can make it as a team.
Okay. And where did they do that part of the training?
They do it in North Carolina.
Okay. All right. So then, when did you finish all of this training?
It was a long haul. Let's see. I would say to you about 8 months to finish.
Okay. So what year, what month are you done?
I started in I think it was January 1959. I finished the training, just the training, not going to the company. I finished my training about January of
1960 then?
1960.
Okay. Now, having completed all of that,
Then you get assigned to a company.
okay. And what unit were you attached to then?
I was assigned to D Company 7 Special Forces,
All right. And where were they based?
right there in North Carolina, in Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Okay. Now, did you stay there for a long period of time?
I stayed in the 7 for about 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Then they brought forward a new group, the 6 Special Forces group. So they took people from the different units
Mm-hmm.
to form and train the 6, and I went to the 6 Special Forces.
All right. And then how long, but then physically, how long do you actually stay in North Carolina then?
Well, I stayed with the 6, I stayed another 4 or 5 months, then I went to the 8 Special Forces in the Panama Canal Zone.
Okay. And what was their assignment in the Canal Zone?
All over. We had the whole Central and South America. I think I went to every country that is in the map.
What kinds of missions were you performing doing that?
We went to every country basically to support the government military, to conduct operations. If you remember the history during that period of time, that when the communists were trying to expand through Central and South America, or calling in the Southeast Asia, all over the place. Our job at that time basically was to train all those countries there against Cuba infiltration.
Mm-hmm.
That when, remember the old Che Guevara? Well, that was part of our operation.
All right. Now, how long did you do that kind of work?
I stayed there for 3 years. My first mission there was to El Salvador. We normally go for 3 or 4 months. Then after that, I went to Ecuador. The reason for that was that when Che Guevara was actually, he came into Ecuador, went through there into Bolivia, but other Cuban troops also came there. So basically they operated in Ecuador and Bolivia.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Ecuador with the Airborne units. They have an Airborne battalion in Ecuador. And the other team went to Bolivia. Some of them have the Lanceros and the Bolivian Rangers.
Now, did very many of the Rangers in your company speak Spanish?
The people in Panama, all our people speak Spanish.
Okay.
Some of them are American, but they speak
Mhm.
the language.
Okay, but it makes it that much easier for them to go into these other Latin American countries and operate
Right.
effectively.
Yeah, in a special forces, everybody had to train in a different language. I didn't have to worry about Spanish if I
Yeah.
speak Spanish, but I was trained in Arabic.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that was because the 7th Special Forces at that time were responsible for, we have the country of Iraq and the country of Iran,
Mm-hmm.
so that was our area of operation basically. What they call the area study, that was
Right.
what we do.
All right. So now, when you were doing these missions in Central and South America, did you get into combat situations? Were you mostly kind of doing training and?
Not really, but we basically trained the Airborne Battalion to conduct ground operations and to clear the area, and we let them at that.
Okay.
And the people in Bolivia do whatever they did.
All right. All right. Now, so when did the assignment in Panama come to an end?
In 1965, I was transferred to the first Special Forces, that the Special Forces in Okinawa.
Okay.
And the reason for that was to go on what they call a short tour, 4 months. I went into Vietnam at that time to a town called Ha Tien. And we trained with South Vietnam Special Forces in there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, did they start teaching you Vietnamese at this point, or not?
We understood some of the language. We reviewed some of the key phrases, everything.
Okay. And now, did you stay in Okinawa, or did you switch over to
No,
Vietnam?
we didn't stay in Okinawa. We went through Okinawa.
Oh, went through
with
Okinawa,
the
okay.
team. We went to Ha Tien. After 4 months, we were replaced by another team,
Mm-hmm.
and I went back to Fort Bragg.
All right. Now, when you were in Vietnam this first time, was this just a training assignment then?
The first tour was a short tour. It was a training assignment.
Okay. And what kind of place was it that you were based or stationed? At Hoa Tien, what was that like?
Ha Tien was a good area. I was assigned. That was close to the ocean. What is it? The Thailand something. But it wasn't a high ground. It's a small town.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission there, our main mission was to train nurses, both female nurses for the Vietnamese army and men for the army.
How does a Special Forces unit wind up training nurses?
Well, we have, in our detachment, we have all the capability that you can imagine. We have 2 medics. We have one it's called the senior medical specialist, and he have a second medic, which is an assistant. The medical course is a couple years for the people to complete.
Mm-hmm.
When they finish there, they can be a physician assistant.
Okay.
They can do just about everything that a doctor normally can do.
All right.
So they have all the capabilities in the world.
Okay. But then what were you doing while these people were training nurses?
Well, as an operations sergeant, I was responsible for all the enlisted men on the team. I spent most of the time collecting intelligent information.
Okay.
The reason for that is because the civilian come into the clinic,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, and the whole world know that some of those are Vietcongs.
Okay.
Okay, so you interview them the best way you can. You have a guy that translates for you, and you know, use your ability to try to get some information.
Did you think you had any success with that?
Yes.
Okay. And how common was it for Viet Cong or whatever to try to infiltrate or come into these places?
Every day. Well, some of them come for medicine because they didn't have medicine. They come
Okay.
for medicine. So
All right. So that they really want to learn then?
right.
Yeah,
We don't deny medical assistance to anybody.
Okay.
We don't do that. But we are smart enough to know this guy is and this guy is not.
Mm-hmm.
So we just casually, put a question here, the question there, because we know they're going to come back anyhow. And every time they come back, we just put a question. So eventually we get our puzzle assembled.
Okay. Now, once you decide that someone probably is with the Viet Cong, how does that affect how you deal with them?
We led the South Vietnamese Special Forces detachment. It's two detachments, one American, one South. And we tell them what do we believe, and it's up to them to do whatever they want. We don't question or what they do or what happened.
All right. Did you ever have any idea of what they did when they found out somebody might be
We
missing?
didn't try to get involved in that.
Okay. All right. So you said it was a short tour. So how long does that last?
4 months.
4 months. Okay. And then you go back to the U.S. after that?
Right.
Okay. And then back to North Carolina or somewhere else?
No, I went back to North Carolina, and I was assigned to the 5th Special Forces Group, and we got the mission in 1966 to go back into Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
So my team, complete team, we went back to Mian in the Mekong Delta.
Okay. And what did you do there?
I was still the operations sergeant for the detachment.
Right. But what was your unit's assignment this time?
Our assignment in Vietnam was kind of different from what you normally expect. Our mission basically was to go with an A detachment into an area of operation, try to recruit people within the area, train these people to the point where they can conduct combat operations within that area.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference about that mission was that when I first went in, I went into what they call Kowloon. That's a fairly big city. And I heard what happened to other detachments. For example, at that time we had one detachment in the Ashau Valley, Special Forces detachment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've read about it, but that detachment was fully destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
It was overrun there in the Ashau Valley.
Mm-hmm.
The reason they were destroyed was because one of the companies that they have that they recruit from within the area was actually Viet Cong.
Oh.
When the attack started, the company from the inside started shooting to the people inside the camp. We lost the complete team down there. So I got a little bit smarter than that. When I was in Kowloon, I went to Saigon because I know they had Chinese there. I recruited 500 Chinese fighters.
Okay. So these are ethnic Chinese who live in Vietnam, as opposed to ethnic Vietnamese. Okay. All right. And so this is a group that's going to be easy to separate from the Viet Cong, or going to be opposed to them?
They don't have Viet Cong. Not those people there. They are very peculiar. And the difference between them and the regular Vietnamese that the other detachment have a tendency to recruit is that the Chinese are very loyal. If you treat them okay and you take care of their family, you pay them on time, you do everything you can for them, they're good.
All right. Now, can you describe the base you established there? Because you're in the Delta.
First, you got to clear the area. We went to what they call a combat assault with helicopters, with all the units, all 4 companies, and we clear a large operation area. Then we select a site, and we build a camp. It took us 90 days to build the camp.
You mentioned before the interview at some point you were on a floating camp.
It's called, if you go to Wikipedia or something on the site, on the internet,
Okay.
the
Wikipedia?
Yeah. You can find there about the Mian camp. Mian camp is a floating camp, or was a floating camp.
Okay. Can you physically describe it?
Okay, basically when we went there, after we cleared the area and we have all the security covering a large portion of the area of operation. One of the CB, the Navy teams, joined one construction team. It's called a KB team, construction team, Navy. They have small bulldozer and everything that you can imagine. They have all the capability that you can imagine. So they landed there in our area, and we have the sketch of what we want, the map of what we want, and we have a major problem. We knew that in the monsoon, you will not be able to operate there because, you know, it's wet up to your neck. And so they have an engineer officer with the team. So we all took a seat and tried to say how we're going to operate during the monsoon season. So they decided that we're going to build buildings and we're going to mount them on platform, and the platform is going to have 55-gallon drums underneath, and they secure that to the bottom. And then, so that was easy to do, the building, but then we had to say how we're going to defend the positions. So the engineer major said, well, we're going to get Connex container, I don't know if you're familiar with them, and we're going to cut opening where you can stick your machine gun everything. We're going to build a platform on the perimeter, and we're going to put the platform there, and then they have, it's not a chain, but it's a web type of lashing that they have, like you have on the aircraft to keep things from moving. But those things are special. So they put that through the containers, and it goes into the ground, and it goes down deep into the ground, but you have a slack. They have a slack that they roll up and they tie. So when the monsoon starts and the water starts coming, buildings start coming up. So you have good visibility, and you have good support. That's why they call it floating camp.
Yeah, and you created sort of an armored wall or perimeter around it that's attached to it.
Yeah.
All right. Now, while you were down there, did that camp come under attack?
Yeah, we were attacked. Initially, we have what they call PRO. That's a small squad, unit, 10, 12, 15 people. But we knew that we were going to get hit. And the reason we knew that because we sent some of our patrols out into the surrounding villages, there are villages all over the place, way up there. And we got information that the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese were constructing a bunch of large wooden boxes. Those are what they put their dead in. We put all this thing together, all the information we got here and there. So we knew that we would get hit. So what I did, I put one platoon outside on the area that I figured that the attack will come from. And I figured that the attack will come from the north, because on the back, we have a river to our back, so we have cover on the river, and we have Navy boats, what they call the airboats, so kind of patrolling the river, so we will cover there. So we feel they will come from the north, and we got hit the first time by one battalion. But when they came in, the platoon that I have on the security out there, they discovered them very quickly, and they pulled back. And in Special Forces we have what we call C-130B. They call them the Spooky. They fire 50 millimeter and 75 millimeter from those guns there. And what you have to do, call, and they come right and put the fire where you want. So we stopped there 400 meters away from the camp with our C-130 aircraft.
You mentioned before, when you got your intelligence, you found they were building a bunch of wooden boxes.
Yeah, wooden boxes. Well, they built two things, and we have a little bit of knowledge on that already. They built two things. One is the wooden boxes to take the dead and wounded and stuff like that, and the other one is ladders. When they overran the Aishao Valley, they use ladders that they put on the wire perimeters, and they go over that. So we knew that, that if they have ladders, we're going to get hit. So with those two things, that gives us the necessary intelligence information.
Now, was this a Viet Cong main force battalion that came after you?
That was a combination of the 514 North Vietnamese regiment. The regiment I think they have 4 battalions on the regiment. The 514, and we were familiar with the 514. We knew their breakdowns and their operations.
And what was the date of the attack, or approximate date?
The first attack came about the 13th of July 1967.
Okay. All right, but you've got North Vietnamese regulars operating there and not just Viet Cong or Provisional Forces.
No. Most of the people in that area, they were the Viet Cong in that area. The 514 was just moving into that area of operation, and the reason we knew was the 514 because we got intelligence from the Ashau Valley from a couple of the people that survived there, and I knew that was the 514. That was no doubt on my mind. And so that first battalion attacked us around the 13th. And like I said, I called the C-130, but I also called what we call the Mobile Strike Force. We have a Mobile Strike Force. It's a battalion side force, very good fighters that are under the control of Americans. Right after the C-130, we brought the strike force, and the strike force kind of pushed the rest of the people out.
Now, did they also come after you with sappers and try to sabotage the base?
Yeah, they normally come first with sappers. You got to detect the sapper first. That's what our platoon there did. The contact they made was with the sappers. They discovered them. And they were a long way before they can reach our camp. And they opened fire on them. And then that's when I bring the C-130.
Okay.
And I went ahead and called the strike force because I didn't know what was coming behind.
Right.
So the strike force came in and they landed and started clearing the rest of the area.
Now, how long were you based in that area?
Well, I was wounded 6 days later.
Okay.
We were hit by 2 battalions the next time.
Okay. And what happened that time?
Well, after the first encounter, the commander of the night force, he was ordered to leave. And he told me, sorry.
Just pause here for a minute. We were talking about the battle in the Delta where you were wounded and so forth. You've gotten to the point where the commander of the support battalion was told you he was coming in. And so what then did his battalion do?
But his battalion, it's called the Mike Force. They attacked the 2 Vietnamese battalions. They cleared the area. I don't know how many killed. I think they killed 300 or 400 of the enemy before they withdrew.
Right. And then at that point, what happens to you? Do you get medevaced out, or what happens?
Yeah, when I was on the ground, the Chinese security platoon, what was left of them, they pulled the South Vietnam Special Forces commander was dead, and a couple of the other people. We pulled him toward the river. And then this guy from the Mike Force, I didn't know at that time, but he already had another Special Forces team coming by the river. And they reached our position immediately. And so we were evacuated in boats with the Special Forces detachment.
Okay. And did you have to spend time in a hospital, or what happened to you next?
Yeah, the senior medic that was still alive, he took care of my wounds initially. And then I was evacuated to Saigon. And I stayed there one night, and then I was evacuated to Japan, to Yokohama, Japan.
At this point, what rank were you at? Were you still?
I was an EA.
You were still an EA
Yeah,
at
I
this
still
point?
with the operations side.
Okay. All right. And then how long did you stay in Japan?
I was about 4.5 months.
Okay. And was that all recovery time, or did you get a duty assignment in the process?
Recovery.
Okay. I mean, were you able to get up and walk around and do things, or?
Oh yeah, I learned. The doctor said I'd be there for 6 months, but he said if I work hard, the physical therapy that be able to make it sooner.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. So 4.5 months later, I was transferred to Womack Army Hospital in Fort Bragg.
To what, which?
Womack Army Hospital in Fort Bragg.
Okay, Fort Bragg, all right. And then, did you have to spend how much time in the hospital there?
About 2 months.
Okay. Now, after all of that, did you want to go back to Vietnam, or?
No, after all of that, I had to go. First, I had to pass the Special Forces physical
Oh,
test again
yes.
to be able to get assigned back to Special Forces.
Okay.
You cannot go unless you pass the physical test, and I did. I finally did.
All right. And so when was that then that you finally get through all of this, you pass the test again?
I finally completed my test, I think, late in '68 in Fort Bragg, and they sent me back to the Panama to the 8th Special Forces again.
And did you stay there very long?
Not too long. The 75th Ranger Regiment or battalion, whatever they used to call it at that time, they have several. They were short people. But what happened in Panama is that when I came out of Fort Bragg to Panama, my commander, Colonel Kelly, was the group commander for the Special Forces, and he heard that I was wounded. I was in Panama, so he sent me a letter. He said, "I know you didn't want to be an officer before, and I know you rejected the commission before. This time, General Westmoreland want for you to take the commission. So we're going to make you captain straight." So I got a letter from General Westmoreland, so I went ahead and to the commission at that time.
All right.
And it happened that during the same time that I got the commission, that the 75th Ranger was short people, commanders. So I was transferred to the 75th Ranger. And when I got there in Vietnam, I was assigned to D Company as company commander, D Company 75th. And during that time, the battalion was reorganizing, and then the company commander for that region was a major rather than a captain. So the guy, the commander there, wanted me to be the XO. And I said, no, thank you, I came as a commander, I don't want to be an SO. An SO be sitting on the battalion rear, just, taking care of administration stuff.
You wanted to be a combat commander.
Yeah, I don't want to be in the back there, sitting there. Yeah. So we were back and forth, trying to determine. I conducted a couple operations with them to rescue a couple platoons, nothing big, go in, go out, not a big deal. But at that time, there was a lieutenant colonel that when I was on E6 and E7, he was my company commander. He was Colonel Crow. He made Lieutenant General Howard Crow. He heard that I was on D Company, 65th Ranger, so he came up there to the camp. He said, "Hey, get all your stuff. You coming back with me?" So evidently he talked to somebody, and I left. I went with him back to the 101st. He assigned me to a Charlie Company, 2nd Battalion, 506.
All right.
So that's how I got to the 101st.
Okay. So when then did you join that company?
The Charlie Company?
Yeah, when did you join them?
I joined the company on '69.
Okay. About what month?
I get there, I think, in January 69.
Oh, it's early 69.
No, but prior to that, I may stop. I came with Colonel Crowell back to Camp Evans.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Hale was the Charlie Company commander at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to wait for him to disappear. So I went to the 187 Airborne battalion there, and it was a very good unit. So I stayed with them until Captain Hale was ready to leave. Then I came back and joined the second 5-6.
Yeah. Now, with the 187th, were you just a staff officer then, or did you have?
Yeah, I was what they call an S5 at that time. S5 was the guy that go around through the villages and looking around for intelligent information and stuff like that. You know, nothing important to me.
All right. And then, so then, when do you then take over your company?
In January.
That's in January.
Yeah.
Okay. And where were they based at the time you joined them?
Well, they were still in Camp Evans.
Oh, still Camp Evans. Okay. Now, that's January 69. That's about a year and a half before the Ripcord operation itself goes on. So
the Ripcord operation was in July
of 1970.
Yeah, July 17.
Okay.
Yeah, I got on December 69. December 69. I got there.
There we go. That's the timeline.
Because I was only 6, 7, 8 months. Yeah, because the other time I was on the 187.
Right.
And prior to that, I was on the 75th Ranger.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that year's tour there in those
Right.
pieces. Okay. So basically, by January of 1970, then.
Yeah, January 70. Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of operations were you conducting in the first couple of months when you were with your company?
No, we went. The first operation we went to outside Raleigh Firebase. Our mission, Charlie Company, was to set up the perimeter outside the firebase to protect the firebase.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, were you able to apply a lot of the things you had learned in Special Forces to how you commanded your company or what you trained your men to do?
Well, the only thing that I was different from the regular conventional commanders is like in the 101st you normally move to positions by helicopters, but for some reason they have a tendency to land the whole company in one location, and I never like to do things like that. Because I knew Colonel Crowell, he was my company commander, and he knew me and how we operate. I normally change the procedure that I don't land all 3 platoons on one location. So when I landed outside of Raleigh, I was on 3 different locations, one here, one there, here.
But if you were going to an operation out in the jungle someplace and going in there by helicopter, did you then have to create separate landing zones for them, or?
I always select not only 3 landing zones, but emergency landing zones, Plan A and Plan B.
Mm-hmm.
You never, you got to have a way out.
Mm-hmm. All right. And were there situations where that turned out to be a good idea?
Everybody kind of operate the same way I operate after that.
Mm-hmm. And in the months before the Ripcord operation itself, how much actual fighting were you engaging in as opposed to just
we
patrol?
got hit at the Los Raleigh. We moved through a series of hills down the hills over the plains, and we didn't go straight into Ripcord. I think D Company went into Ripcord one day.
Mm-hmm.
I got to Ripcord the second day. D Company went in and then they came out.
Mm-hmm.
They came by helicopter. I moved on the ground from O'Reilly all the way through. We were hit outside Ripcord. The first night that I set up with first platoon, Lieutenant Campbell platoon. We were hit that night by a force.
Mm-hmm.
And, but the way I set up, I had Lieutenant Hawkins with the second platoon to the right. I have Lieutenant Wallace and another platoon to the left. So when we got hit that night, I counterattacked with the first platoon straight ahead. and we cleared the area, and Hawkins was moving already from the right-hand side.
So you had pretty good platoon leaders at that point.
Very good platoon leader. I have Lieutenant Campbell, he was an ROTC officer, but very good at it. I had Lieutenant Hawkins, West Point officer, very, very dependable. All my platoon leaders were very good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And by having your platoon sort of camped separately, the enemy found one of them, but they didn't necessarily know where the other ones
That's
were.
correct.
And that makes it possible for you to counterattack.
It made you to counterattack and also to fire without hitting your own people.
Now, did you counterattack at night or the next day?
I counterattack at night.
Okay. Now, that was not common for
No,
American
it's not
units?
common for them. It's common for special forces.
Okay.
We counterattack at night. If you get hit, you immediately counterattack to clear the area, move the people out of there.
Right. All right. And then having done that, that's sort of the second day of the Ripcord operation. How much longer were you with your company at that point?
When I went to Ripcord, I set up, well, the general will tell you, I set up the defenses of Ripcord.
Okay. So you're up on the hilltop there that's been cleared off, and now you're laying out the defensive position.
I lay out all the perimeter defense around the whole fire base.
And then how long did you stay up there?
I stayed there for a long time. I stayed there, I came out of Ripcord, I think about 2 or 3 weeks before we had the big fiasco with the helicopter. I went to S4 after I left Ripcord. But I set up the whole operation before I left.
All right. Now, did you have your company in defensive positions, or were you sending them out?
No, I have 2 platoons only inside the base.
Mm-hmm.
Lieutenant Hawkins never came to the base.
Okay.
Lieutenant Hawkins is a mobile platoon. They stay outside.
Mm-hmm. All right. And while you were on the base, were you getting sapper attacks or other things like that time?
We got probes. And they were never able, they never penetrated Ripcord.
Mm-hmm.
The sappers never went inside Ripcord.
So most of the damage over the course of that fight was from enemy artillery and mortar fire and so forth.
They attempted several times, but they could not penetrate there. I have my position to begin with. Most of the people build what they call bunkers, and you can see the bunkers 400 or 500 meters high. You can see them sticking there. On Ripcord, I don't have a position. I don't build bunkers. I know you saw the artillery with bunkers. My people were down at the slopes, and we built what we call an air trench. And the reason for that position like that, because you can have a couple of people here, and you also have 1 people on the right side defending there. And we don't have that much cover like other people put much cover, very little cover. Enough for 1 or 2 people to take care of themselves.
But in the meantime, you make a much smaller target.
Yeah, they can see you. You know, if you have your target sticking there, they will use those grenades, you know, rocket-type grenades coming, RPGs into your position. You know, you can get 2 or 3 people killed at the same time. So our positions are flat.
All right. Now, by the time, but at a certain point in the Ripcord campaign, you're rotated out.
Yeah.
All right. What was the strength of the company at the time that you left it? How many men did you have?
I had the whole company. I only lost, that I remember, I only lost, on the second day on Ripcord, I lost one guy. He was from Puerto Rico.
But how many men did you have going in?
But I had the full company, 1 full company, all 3 platoons.
Okay, but in terms of numbers of men, I mean, how big?
Probably 150 something.
Okay, so you'd have that's still a substantial strength company at that point going in. Because later, toward the end of Ripcord, some of the companies were down to 15 men or 20 or 30.
Oh yeah, they lost a lot of people.
All right. Now, what did they do with you after they moved you out of Ripcord?
I became the S4 officer for the battalion.
All right. And were you then based back at Evans or somewhere else?
Yeah, I was back in Kang Evans, but I have still to provide the support for all the companies.
And then, did you come back to Ripcord at all?
I came back to Ripcord on that day where we have all the stuff going. Yeah.
All right. Now, in the sort of the written accounts of a Ripcord campaign, one of the observations that the author Keith Nolan makes or whatever is that the operation was not as well supported as it might have been, whether it was with artillery or with manpower or that kind of thing.
I don't know about that. I didn't see it that way. One thing that people didn't understand, but it's in my book and the people can read it. When the people went to Ripcord is a lower, high ground than two of the mountains around.
Yes.
Right to the left is a mountain where the Vietnamese, the North Vietnamese can fire directly into you.
Right.
That was the main problem with Ripcord. Then on the western portion, we also have the Cockwick Mountain, very high mountain. They also have observation.
Right.
What the enemy was trying to do, and it makes sense, because they have more artillery than we have to begin with, was they don't want to lose the ground forces because they tried several times when I was there to penetrate. They were not able to penetrate. The reason for that, because I have good obstacles out. I have 55-gallon napalm gallons buried on the ground around the perimeter that I can click and burn the whole thing. I have triple concertina wire, which is straight wire that you cannot lower down with your ladder or anything like that. And then I have all my artillery and the models from the E Company right in front of the wire. I practice them and I let them fire the rounds until we pinpoint and everybody knows exactly what every defensive artillery is going to hit. The organization of Ripcord is not as bad as some people say. I went to Ripcord 2 days prior to the withdrawal because we knew that we had to withdraw, and I got to make the plan as the FOR officer for the battalion, how I'm going to withdraw the troops, how I'm going to take all the equipment out. The equipment belonged to me. Okay. And so I have the plan how we're going to do it. I have all the helicopters to support and everything. What happened that day to begin with was that one of the C-46 or C-47, I don't know which one he used, went down into the bunkers area. And at the same time, some of the ammunition that was in the open got a big explosion there.
Right.
You know, some people were wounded, a lot of people were wounded. But that was, the helicopter was brought down by the enemy fire. There's nothing you can do. Also, Colonel Lucas' helicopter was hit badly because he was, you know, going all the way around. And, you know, when he came down into the path, he also had problem with it. But as far as I'm concerned, we took the people out as planned. We took all the guns out. My XO took the last one out. He stayed there until the last one went out. I have all the medevac helicopters. They come in there under fire. I went to Ripcord twice under heavy fire. Took a lot of the wounded in the southern portion. Most of the wounded were kind of assembled on the north portion. And I went to the north, to the top of the hill there, and I brought some of the wounded guys who still could fire a little weapon to the southern portion. And I put them online just in case something happened to defend what my helicopter that I used being in. My pilot made 3 trips into Ripcord. 3 trips, taking people out. So as far as I'm concerned, everything went out the way it was supposed to.
All right. Did you have a sense that the Ripcord operation accomplished something useful? I mean, did it do a lot of damage to the North Vietnamese?
Our mission in Ripcord was to wish the 155 and the 105 to fire into the resupply area for the enemy use, which is the Ashau Valley. That was accomplished. The artillery battery there with Captain Rich was outstanding. And nobody can ever say that they didn't get the fire that they requested. This guy was really good officer. And you know, he was wounded for 6 or 7 times on that hill. He accomplished the mission. He fired exactly what he had to do. The mission was accomplished fully. When they told us to withdraw, we had to withdraw, but that was not our fault. As far as I'm concerned, I could stay. I wanted to stay on Ripcord to begin with, because I settled the defense, and I knew that even if they attack with 4 or 5 battalions, that we will hold the enemy. And the enemy knew that, as in when the general talked to the other general from North Vietnam, when he wrote his book, he said he tried to penetrate Ripcord. He was not able to penetrate Ripcord. And he was smart. If he thought he would lose all his men there.
All right. Now, how would you characterize the company that you commanded in that operation in terms of, first of all, what was the morale like in the unit? What was the attitude of the soldiers?
With me, it was very high. It was very high because, as the people can tell you, I command my unit from the front. I know the company commander who sit behind the platoon. I'm with the first platoon, with the first squad, I'm right there. And the reason I do that, if we get a hit, I want to know exactly from where the fire is coming from. I don't want to wait there for somebody to call us and we're getting fire from here, we're getting fire from there. When we get hit, I know from where the fire is coming because I'm right there on the beginning.
Well, the conventional wisdom is that if you're up front, you're the first guy to get hit.
If you're with the first squad and you get hit, you get hit. But you know from where the fire is coming. Right. You know how many people are shooting on you. You know the strength of the enemy, and you can use your forces accordingly to maneuver.
The American public sort of got all kinds of information or misinformation about how soldiers in Vietnam behaved or what they did and so forth. And one of the things, there was an assumption that morale was low and so forth. Now, another one was that, they were using drugs all over the place and so forth. And what awareness did you have of that kind of thing, or where would it happen if it did?
When I took over Charlie Company, Captain Hale was the commander, and I talked to him for about, I don't know, a couple of hours. And the only thing that he told me was that there was 2 or 3 guys, by the way, they were black guys, that they were kind of trouble with him, and sometimes they didn't want to go to the field, and something like that. But other than that, he said the rest of the company was pretty good. And so the first thing I did, I talked to these individuals myself. And I made it very clear. I said, when the company moved, everybody moved, except for the first sergeant and the mail clerk. That's the only 2 people stay back. Everybody else go, and everybody carry a weapon. I said, but if you don't want to carry a weapon, you don't have to. But you still going with our weapons. Okay? So they knew very clear who I was and where I stand and everything. And I don't remember ever having any problem with any. If we say we're going to move and go here and take the hill, we just go and do that.
Now, when you were based back at Camp Evans, was it obvious that there were people on there who were smoking pot or drinking too much or whatever?
When I took over the S4, and therefore there was no people were to begin with. We didn't have many people in S4.
No, I didn't mean in your own unit so much as just generally on a larger base like that.
Could be, but I never paid attention.
Not your problem.
Yeah, I kind of stick to my S4 people and to Charlie Company.
Okay. Now, were there racial tensions that affected the performance of the unit, or that what little issue there could have been
Charlie
you took
Company.
care of? Yeah.
No, in Charlie Company.
Right.
Those 3 guys, they didn't give any problem. As a matter of fact, one of the guys was normally the point man when we move. So there's no problem.
You've been a good soldier too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now, once the Ripcord operation is over, how much longer did you stay in Vietnam?
I was late. I was supposed to leave, and I was late, and because I stayed, I was on Ripcord for about, because we had the plan, everything going.
Right.
I couldn't leave because my plane was already ready and everything, and finally that day, after everything was clear and the wounded and everything, the people from the battalion, the brigade said, you've been missing, and people in the division are upset. I said, we're sorry. I had things to do, and that's what I got to do. So the new battalion commander, Colonel Bard, he got me in his helicopter, and he then took me back to the division there. And evidently there was no problem. He walked in there, he was a big man here. And I didn't see like getting any problem with it.
Right.
And the next day I was flying out.
Okay. Now, how much longer did you stay in the Army after that?
After that, it's kind of life is kind of crazy. I went back to the Special Forces School. After I finished my commission, and I became the command sergeant major for the Special Forces School in Fort Bragg.
Now, did you stay at the rank of captain at that point? Or?
No. I took my old enlisted grade.
Right.
I was a command sergeant major by the time I finished it. So I had two assignments. Command sergeant major of the missile command in Huntsville, Alabama. An assignment, a command sergeant major for the John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center, which had the Special Forces School.
All right. And then how long did you stay with that?
I stayed until I retired in 1980. I retired with my rank of captain, which was in active duty, and I was a major on the reserve.
Okay. And how long did you stay in the reserves?
Not long. I have enough there.
Okay. So what have you done since you retired out of the Army?
When I retired from the Army, I went to work for ITT Corporation. I was the quality manager for ITT Corporation, and later on I was the logistic manager for the corporation.
Now, did you go and get some more education too?
When I was in Fort Bragg, I already have a bachelor's degree, so I completed my master's. And then I went to Mississippi, Madison University. I completed a PhD there.
And PhD in what field?
Business administration.
Okay. Now, yes, when you came back from Vietnam after that last tour, now you're in a period where the anti-war movement is pretty powerful and all this stuff is going on.
That's been like that for a long time, right?
Did you ever pay much attention to that or worry about it, or did you just focus on your own job?
No. I knew after Korea, I knew that there was certain element within the population of the United States, like the media, that was anti-war. When we came out of Korea, most of the people in the United States didn't even know what the hell Korea was all about.
Right.
The only thing they knew was about Second World War and First World War, nothing about Korea.
Yeah.
When we came out of Vietnam, it was like, or you have just people parading here and there against the wars. I don't pay attention to those people. That's not my problem anyhow.
Not your problem. All right.
I just go on, decide to do other things, and take care of myself.
Now, you've also written a book about your experiences.
Yeah.
Is that just kind of an autobiography, or is it focused on your military career?
It's a focus-based. First, downstairs now in the hospitality room. It's about the Korean War, and it's about the Vietnam War, and it's about my life. What I did before I came into the service, and what I did when I was in the service, and what I did after get out from the service.
So it's the complete version of what we've talked about here today.
Years about. Now, the most important thing in my book that for me, you know, it was not, you know, my service in Korea per se, or my service in the Special Forces, which I appreciate a lot, or Vietnam or anything. My major thing on the book, and there's a lot of pages on that, there was an incident with the 65th Infantry in Korea after I left. And a lot of people were court-martialed. And the battalion commander of the 2nd Battalion was relieved of his duty. And there was a lot of things written about the situation there, about the operation. That was a lie, a complete lie. And I think 100 and some people were court-martialed, including some of the officers. And the thing that bothered me the most, especially since one of the company involved was G Company, and I was in G Company, and I know G Company as a platoon leader, and G Company did exactly what we had to do. And we have a lot of attacks there that we conducted. And I lost several people there, not as many as I lost in Special Forces. But those people never backed down. And I was reading the records from the Department of Defense and the Department of the Army, and all they talk. But most of the people who were talking there, they were not on the ground. They really didn't know what the hell they were talking about. They talk about something called Jackson Heights, and how the people refused to stay on the hill and withdrew and all the thing. I was on that hill not one but 3 times, and I conduct attack on the hill. And the Chinese, we cleaned the Chinese out of there. So I knew how to attack and everything. I had no problem. But one thing I remember on Jackson Hill, you could not dig in on top of that hill. It was nothing but rocks. Okay? The 65th Infantry did not have engineered people like I have in the 15th Infantry. When the company commander called for artillery, they told him that they didn't have any round because they have a quota. You can only fire so many rounds. Okay? And those are facts. Okay? So that company commander, they had no capability. He was fighting with few people, trying to fight 2 and 3 Chinese company and battalion size sometimes. Okay? And they said, well, the people did that, and they accused the battalion commander, the 2nd battalion commander, that he said he was not a good leader because he could not defend Jackson Heights. But the truth of the matter is that that battalion commander and 2 of his company, they went to Jackson Heights, the same way I went there before. They attacked, and they stayed there for 15 straight days. Now, if they were so bad troops, how come, number one, they cut the hill, they stayed there, they defended? What else does the army want from them? Okay? No, they lost a lot of people because of the Chinese artillery coming into that location. They lost a lot of people. And they didn't have enough people to you know, be able to repel a Chinese battalion or anything like that.
So had they been accused of just withdrawing when they shouldn't have, or?
They are accused of withdrawing under fire. That's, you know, the same as treason, basically. And, yeah, eventually the Secretary of the Army cleared them of that. But this thing happened many years after the whole situation. And so most of my book is about that. You know, I emphasize that. You know, the Department of the Army, what they put there on paper, most of the things they put there was false. They said that was enough artillery. That's a lie. The Secretary of the Army also said that there was not enough artillery. there was a shortage of artillery.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have any rounds to support them. And they said that they didn't want to dig in Jackson Heights. You cannot dig in Jackson Heights.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have demolition
Right.
to blow a hole, and then the people can continue digging.
Mm-hmm.
So the people there were exposed to the artillery fire. And then the thing that really bothered me the most, and I put a lot of pages on that. If you attack a hill with one company, if in a battalion you have three line companies, you attack with one company, and you are on that hill, like Jackson High, and the enemy attack with 2 battalions. You don't withdraw the company like the higher commander ordered the battalion commander to withdraw the company. And then he ordered the same battalion commander to go back into the same hill with another company. To me, that is very stupid.
Mm-hmm.
If I was a battalion commander, I will not withdraw, even if the regimental commander told me to withdraw, I will not. Because I know if I withdraw, I have to go back the next day. So the solution was very simple. Commit your other 2 companies into that location. Hold the ground. Don't back down. That way you don't have to attack 2 or 3 times like they did on Jackson High.
Mm-hmm.
And I criticize that. Okay. And I learned that from my commander in Korea, Captain Lyon, my commander. I was a private. I didn't know anything about nothing. I didn't know which way was north or south, and I was just a private there. But one thing I learned from that commander is that he will not withdraw from a position. He never gives a position away.
Mm-hmm.
Simple, because he said he got to go back and retake it. And he always kept a platoon of reserve, and he always counterattack. That's what I learned, the procedure. I counterattack. I learned from Captain Light. He counterattack.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we're not living here, because we live here, we go down that hill, then we have to climb back that
Right.
hill again.
So you learned a lot right away, and I guess you kept learning the whole time pretty
Yeah.
much you were in.
I learned.
All right. Well, it makes for a pretty remarkable story, so I'd just like to close out here by thanking you for
Sure.
taking the time to tell it to us today.
Okay.
All right. That will be a wrap.